Moon Knight Omnibus. All right, this comprises the 2005 era of the character, which really a lot of the new stuff built upon. This is Moon Knight 2006, numbers 1 through 30, annual, Moon Knight Silent Night one-shot, The Vengeance of Moon Knight 1 through 10, and Shadowlands Moon Knight. It's by Charlie Huston to start, but it's all over the map for writers and artists. This is quite the compilation, but it is that entire era before it really goes into, like, he's a crazy dude with Egyptian gods all over. You got a little bit, this is really where it starts, but he hasn't gone full tilt crazy yet. And, you know, I'm not a huge fan of that direction of Moon Knight personally. I like the older stuff a lot better, but, you know, it is what it is. All right, so it starts out, we kind of are getting Moon Knight back, and we learn that he sort of disappeared and somebody died, and we're getting one of his old enemies coming back. Beautiful art by David Finch to start this. Look at this stuff. Absolutely stunning for this omnibus. And Mark Spector's kind of stuck in pills, like, and just reminiscing on the past of how he killed people and can't handle it. And he's finally being brought back. And he's, we meet his old cast of characters. Marlene, who's his ex-girlfriend, and Frenchie, who's now made into a gay guy. They always retcon these old side characters into gay guys. It's kind of just how it goes. And this is like the proto on that front. We learn a lot about his past, how he killed this character who's here. You see him right here. He goes by Bushman later on. And now, like, there's this other character who comes back who, like, kind of looks like Moon Knight a little bit, but he's not. We enter back. David Finch's art is so stunning through this. Just absolutely beautiful stuff. I loved it when he was on this and on Batman. On anything, really. David Finch just, like, makes everything worth reading, even this, if this was a little, like, sore. Oh, we're out of David Finch art. Okay. Eventually, David Finch leaves once the comeback comes back. Oh, we're still in it. Okay. And the tone starts to shift a little bit because it gets a little bit caught up in Marvel events, is what we're going to find. So Moon Knight's back in full force at the end of this, at the end of 6 issues. 6-issue arcs for the most part on this. And now Civil War is kind of starting. So we're seeing Spider-Man's trying to figure out who he is, if he's a good guy or not. I guess the first couple arcs, you don't have that yet. We still have some David Finch art for a while. A couple more issues. There's this guy called Midnighter, who's one of his old villains who's coming back. And he's making these awful serial killings around town. That's what it comes down to. So the Punisher gets involved here. Punisher, of course, is even more crazy than Moon Knight. And this is where, like, Moon Knight gets this, like, you know, Egyptian god guy talking in his head and making him think he's crazy. Frenchie doesn't want anything to do with him anymore. He's had too much pain, he says. Marlene doesn't want to be with him anymore. Now we get a new artist who's not quite as good as David Finch. You see kind of like the lines just aren't as crisp. The faces just like aren't as nice to look at. But it's, you know, kind of done in that same style a little bit still. A lot more close-up shots here than there were before. But he deals with Midnighter over the course of things as he kind of like gets his grips with being Moon Knight again. And some vicious, brutal killings in this. It's rough to look at certain points, and he takes care of it. So issue number 13 is a one-shot, and it's like a filler issue where he's kind of, we're learning about this like committee who's like bad and, you know, of course wants to deal with things. It's a super long one-shot here. Moon Knight kind of gets back to normal. It's kind of like that Daredevil style art that Malieve did, but it's not Malieve. I think it's somebody else. Date Night is this like really odd annual issue about these women who were like date raped, but one of them like had Moon Knight save her. It was a very odd issue. Very odd issue. And then we get into this Silent Night, which is by Peter Milligan. Some guys kill Santa Claus. Moon Knight tracks him down and has a date with Marlene at the end of it. So this was pretty good. This was pretty different than and it's got that sort of like indie-ish noir art. And then it kind of goes off the rails a little bit. So we had a couple interesting stories where like we got that like craziness going on with him. And now once we get back into like the main arc of the story, now like civil war's kind of going on here. And this guy, that's Khonshu, like they haven't made him into that like beaked like crow god yet. He like just looks like a god without a face. But Iron Man now is like the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Civil War has been going on, and it's kind of in the background of all this. And you really need to know Civil War and the Initiative like to like get this. Moon Knight's still trying to like get his pals back basically over the course of this. And Iron Man's like, okay, I'm gonna track him down a little bit. This bad guy takes the face of a dead bad guy that he has, who was Bushman, over the course of this. And Moon Knight's like brutally dealing with people. Now the art really starts to not be as good. And we have a Larry King appearance here. S.H.I.E.L.D's tracking him down. S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't like him. They're not doing a very good job with it. They confront him with it. But there's this actual bad guy here, who's another one of Moon Knight's old villains. It's like the son of his old villain. But he's killing people pretending to be Moon Knight as he does so. And they vow to track Moon Knight down. They don't. There's all that Avengers Initiative stuff in here. The art's really not as good as it was. And now we're mired in this, like, Civil War world while we're trying to weave this plot together. This is a side plot where they've created a bunch of werewolves. This was pretty fun. And that it harkens back to Werewolf by Night, of course, and guy from Werewolf by Night's in there. And then it gets even more off the rails with this. So, like, Norman Osborn started a group, the Thunderbolts. They're bad guys, but they're good guys in that they are, like, now in charge of the law. So they vow to hunt down Moon Knight. And I don't know if it's the scans, but I just, like, the art does not look super crisp through this storyline or through the rest of this series. It's kind of odd. I don't know. They finally have their confrontations and all that. Moon Knight eventually leaves New York and pretends Mark Spector's dead once this storyline ends. Kind of weird. Then he goes to Mexico and he ends up, we're still in the middle of this, he ends up in this like fight between like this gang boss and his daughter. This is actually the best storyline in the whole book, I thought. And he rescues her, but she wants to kill her father. He starts to get involved with that. These luchadors get involved with it also. You have a pretty good knockdown drag-out fight, and the Punisher's involved also. It's this is a fun storyline, and eventually he goes back to New York at the very end of the thing. The art's a little more crisp and a little just better through this also than what it was before, as you can see. Or it's changed styles quite a bit, but it feels like a comic book now, instead of trying to feel like something too arty. Now, Moon Knight gets relaunched again with a brand new writer. And he's back in New York. And I don't love the art of this so much. In this one, Bushman kind of comes back, and he's going to threaten everybody Moon Knight loves. They bring him back to life in the first couple issues here. And this is Vengeance of Moon Knight, new series now. And that kind of goes through the first 8 issues. Like, it's pretty long storyline. The arc gets a little better, as you can see. A little cleaner through Vengeance of Moon Knight. Now we get Khonshu finally, who's talking to him in his head this whole time, like finally starting to take that crow form. That wasn't done before. He was just like kind of god without a face for a while. Moon Knight's resisting him. Now he's going to be like, I'm not killing anybody anymore. And it's still trapped within that kind of silver, that universe of the Civil War stuff. Eventually it ends, and there's a couple one-shots at the end of it, or I guess 2 shots. He has a team up with Spider-Man, then has a team up with Deadpool, kind of. They're fun stories, not the best art. They felt like they were filler over the course of this. And I don't know, the scans or the art just, again, is not the best through this. There's the Spider-Man team up. They fight the Sandman. Again, not my favorite art. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with the colors, the scans. It just doesn't look that good to me. It doesn't look that crisp. Once you start with David Finch, you can only go downhill. It's kind of how it goes. But you know what? These storylines were like just fun little superhero storylines all the same. Okay, this is the last issue of it. And he's joined the Secret Avengers, which is going on. Again, that all spun out of Civil War and the Initiative and all that. Steve Rogers has this like super secret covert team at this point. Moon Knight becomes a part of that. In that, Ed Brubaker's writing it. But this one issue, he just goes with the team. So if you're trying to read this Moon Knight series, you just get these like little disjointed one shots, which are, you know, have varying art levels. I don't like this. Is so messy to me. And that's it. And then it ends. I guess they canceled it at that point. The first bit of that was all right, but very odd choices. I fortunately know my way around the Marvel Universe, so like, you know, having those like tie-ins is another thing. And then it ends with a tie-in, which is the Shadowland tie-in, which is interesting because now Moon Knight is like hunting down, is being hunted down by Daredevil, and like he's trying to find this like chalice thing. You've got this like back and forth flashback with his brother, who's becoming Khonshu's other avatar. You see he's got the bird avatar now. And eventually Moon Knight ends up killing his brother, who's threatening to kill a bunch of people to get this crescent thing, which he needs this crescent thing in order to kill Daredevil, who's gone off the rails, and you need to know what Shadowland is to know all that. And as you can see, he's now fighting in Shadowland, which ties into Shadowland, and Moon Knight does appear in that series also. All right, during this, because Mark Spector's dead, he's Jake Lockley the whole time. He gets back together with Marlene. She gets pregnant. She gets thrown down some stairs or something, and the baby dies. It's super too dark and edgy. Like, there's no reason to do that. But they did anyway. At the end, he looks crazy and says he's Mark Spector, and then the series ends. So it's really disjointed stuff. It's all over the map. Some of it was fun to read. Some of it wasn't that fun to read. But like, this is like the mid-2000s Moon Knight. This is all of it. Until you get to Brian Michael Bendis' run, and then it becomes like he's so crazy he doesn't know it's real Moon Knight, and that's kind of how it's been since this era. So this era, you know, is interesting. I mean, it started exploring that path where he's like hearing voices, and he's not just got aliases, he's actually got different personalities. And yeah, I don't love the direction. Some of the art's really nice. Some of the storytelling was fun. And it is a super fast read. Like, I read this in one night. It's like, how many? It's 50 issues or something like that. It's huge. So, I don't know. I can give it good marks for that. So, I call it like a 7.5 out of 10. It's all right. But not the best reading. I'll call it that. All right. Leave a comment down below with what you think. Hit that like and subscribe button. And we'll be back soon.